this is Kat's Diamond Painting. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back if you've joined me here before. I'm here today to do another update on my comparison project. So, brief bit of background history in case this is the first you're seeing of this, although I think for me this must be maybe the fourth or fifth or even sixth video in this series. I don't know who's counting. There is a playlist on the channel if you want to check and see the previous episodes, as it were. But essentially, I have two copies in diamond painting form of a piece of art called The Apprentice, which is by the artist Kat Fedora, who is one of my absolute favourite artists. And she's licensed to a couple of shops. Moony Made is one. These are from Jaded Gem Shop, which is the only other one that I'm actually aware of at the moment. Jaded Gem Shop is a small shop in the US, and when she started out, her kits were coming out in what she called her hybrid rendering style. And this was, as I have always understood it, largely computer rendered with some human touch-ups. And then quite a while later, she started doing what she called pixel charted renders, which were hand renders. And if you're not sure what that means that the artwork has essentially been traced by a pixel artist, if I understand it correctly, and just mapped to the art in a way that is sometimes a lot more accurate or brings it to life more, and also crucially reduces a lot of the confetti you see in paintings. Computer renders tend to be quite confetti, which means they can be very bitty. There can be lots of colour changes because the computer will literally look at, you know, minute details of the colours in the painting and map them out as a pixel. But you don't necessarily need that much variation in colour to bring the piece to life. I'm not sure there was a very good explanation, but you'll see a lot more about the difference between the two as I go through this. So I originally bought this piece of art as a diamond painting from Jaded Gem Shop in the hybrid render because that was all that was available at the time. Then later on, she brought out the same piece of art in the pixel charted version. I am a sucker for hand rendering. I loved the artwork, so I bought that one too, thinking I would destash the hybrid render. However, when they came, I looked at them and thought, ahaha, this would make an interesting project for the channel because these two both have square drills. They're obviously the same artwork from the same shop, and they are both 60 by 60 centimeters. So these are as near a comparison as you can possibly get for the artwork in two different styles of render. Okay, so that's the backstory. And this is, I believe, my fourth update of parts of the diamond painting being completed. There were a video or two beforehand when I was setting up the project, but I think that this is the fourth time I've come back to you having completed sections of the diamond painting to show you the difference. Okay, the end is in sight. I think the next time that I come back to these paintings, that will be the last stretch. I've got one sort of big fat chunky row to go. So it's a fair bit of diamond painting time, but I don't think it'll make sense to break it up into more than one video. I did a decent sized section this time. I'll show you when I unravel one of these how far I covered. So yeah, we're most of the way there. The end is in sight. And mostly I have really enjoyed this project. It doesn't feel repetitive like you might think because the two pieces are so different. However, I will say this is probably the time I have enjoyed coming back to these paintings the least. It's been several months. It's tended to be a few months in between visits to these paintings, just because that's the way I roll. I tend to have multiple whips on the go and I switch between them as I fancy them, and I don't always fancy my really high confetti pieces. I like to take breaks between them, and that's what this baby is. It felt like quite a grind this time. I didn't kind of get into it. Oh, hey Charlie. I didn't get into it in quite the same way I have in the past. Like in the past, I've noticed that, you know, it's maybe taken me a little while to fancy coming back to it. But then once I have, you know, the first little bit has gone slowly and then I've really got into it. And I've enjoyed both projects in different ways because this one is a bit more random, a bit more kind of just placing drills and you can't really see what you're doing, whereas with this one you're seeing the picture emerge immediately. So this is kind of like just mindful diamond painting, whereas this one is diamond painting an obvious picture. I didn't really get into it this time. I'm not sure why. I don't know if that reflects on the diamond paintings, or quite likely it reflects more on me and just where my headspace was. You know, I felt like I fancied doing another section, but maybe I didn't quite. I don't know. But yeah, it did take, it was a bit of a grind, and I previously have enjoyed working on this one more than this one, this being the pixel charted. And yeah, I didn't massively enjoy that section this time either. I'm not sure why. But the paintings are looking gorgeous. I'm looking forward to showing them to you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the hybrid rendered one first and just talk about my experience working on that section. Then I will show you this one, and then I will do more of a comparison, you know, things that I may have felt were better in one or the other. So let's crack on with the hybrid render. Okay, I'll move this one out the way. And here is where I'm up to. If I move you out a little bit, with the original hybrid render piece. So you can see, if I get this little roly bit to flatten out, that is all I have left at the top. And yeah, the vast majority of the piece is now complete, which is good to see. Now, I'll always remind you at this point, before I start discussing this one, that the view you have in the viewfinder gives you an appropriate viewing distance. So the way you see this painting is closer to how a diamond painting should be viewed, in that they're designed to be seen from a distance. So there are things that to me up close may look a bit clunky or not as good as I might like in person, but they may look a lot better for you. So bear that in mind when considering what kind of renders you want for your own diamond paintings, because you'll find the same thing. It looks very different sometimes up close to how it does at a viewing distance. Oh, there is a thing that I wanted to mention in general before I get into these, and this may go some way to explain why I didn't necessarily love this pass at the diamond paintings. So shortly before I came back to them, I was scrolling TikTok, as you do, and I came across a video of someone talking about how she had, as she put it, I think, made an expensive mistake in her shopping at Jaded Gem Shop, because she had bought diamond paintings without grid lines and she hadn't ticked the box to say she would like grid lines. Now, if I show you an uncompleted part of this diamond painting, you will see, hopefully, that there are not the kind of black lines that you typically get in between squares that help you with placement with square drills. And I don't remember ever working on a square diamond painting that didn't have those before. Sometimes they're quite obvious, sometimes they're very faint, but this does not have them. And that has been an adjustment. Every time I come back to the paintings, it's been, oof, that's a bit tricky. You have to be really precise with your placement because the symbols are big as well. If I show you this section in the middle, you can see like that F symbol, it takes up the full space really. You've got to get the drill in the right place. But there aren't those grids, the grid lines on the diamond painting to tell you where to place the drill. So you have to go quite slowly at first, you know, find them in the right places, and then others will fit in around them. Like the further you are into a section, the less it matters because, you know, you're fitting them in between drills that are already placed. Anyways, it's not something I love, but I just thought that that was the style that they do. And this woman explained that on a lot of Jaded Gem Shop listings, she had since realised. So you have your diamond painting, you choose your size, and then on a Jaded Gem Shop listing, there are lots and lots of different potential add-ons. So for example, you can add on special drills, which I did with this one. And one of the things you can add is grid lines for a charge. I think it was something like $3.50 for the charge. And it's not on all her paintings. Like I have more recent ones where these things weren't options and they came as standard. But it's not something that, I mean, I'm not going to say it isn't obvious on the website because I don't remember, you know, I may have just missed it. Maybe it was perfectly obvious. I certainly didn't see or notice that there was an option because you're looking at the added extras and it's quite a long list and you just think, well, I just want the diamond painting. I don't want to add anything to it. And you don't necessarily read them very thoroughly, or at least that was me. if I had read that there was an option to add grid lines, I might have realised that was something I would prefer to have. So in the past, it's kind of been something that I was a bit unkeen on, but I'd get used to as I was working on it. I think that this time of doing it, I felt a little bit more resentful because maybe it's just me. Let me know if you disagree, but I feel like the default would be to have grid lines because that's what almost everyone does. And then if you want to have them removed, that would be something that you'd tick a box for. And I'm also not sure why that costs as much as it does as an add-on. I don't know anything about printing diamond paintings, but it just seems like a lot as an add-on for something that most places include as standard. So yeah, I think that made me a bit grumpy and soured my experience on this pass, because whereas before the lack of grid lines was something I was just dealing with and it was a different challenge, now I was sort of thinking, grump, 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 this would be better if there were grid lines. So that was just one thing I wanted to cover off, because again, like, not everything to do with my experience and my reviews of these paintings is necessarily intrinsic to the painting. A lot of it might just be me and my views. Okay, on to my review of the section of this painting that I worked on, which was from the very tip of the cat's ear, because the last time I did a row, I tried to capture the whole cat. I just missed a few pixels of the top of his ear. So from around here to here. So it was a little more than my usual height of release paper. I did one pass with the release paper and then I did a little baby strip. My goal with that was to cut off at the top of the flame for the candle. That was like the kind of the focal piece of this section, although actually the cauldron is another really cool aspect, and the books and I mean, it's all cool. I love the artwork. I absolutely love the artwork. And at this point, I should probably show you the original artwork, because I think it's helpful to have that in mind when you're looking at these. That is what it looks like. So just waiting for my camera to focus. So yeah, I will show you that again, I'm sure, but that's your reference. That's what we're aiming for with the artwork. And from a proper viewing distance, such as you are, I do think that this hybrid version looks pretty faithful to the artwork. This was a kind of theme that came out particularly in my last update. The more that I've done of the painting, the more I feel like this version is potentially a bit more faithful to the look of the original artwork. Doesn't necessarily make it my favourite of the diamond paintings. In fact, anyone who's watched any other parts of these series will know it has not been my favourite of them. But the colours, the soft style, that's all very Kat Fedora, and computer renders does give you that softer look. Usually with high confetti pieces, I find that once the drills are placed, I can't really see that it was high confetti. That is not the case with this painting. To me, until you're at quite a significant viewing distance, oops, it looks quite bitty. Like if you look at this curtain as an example, this is something which does not, to my mind, look great up close. It looks very pixelated. From a viewing distance where you have the context of the general picture to help your eye fill in what you're looking at, it looks good. But up close, and when you're working on this painting, it can be quite hard to tell what you're working on. You know, what are you actually diamond painting? And that's just something that I think is a common theme with high confetti pieces. But I think probably the places that I buy the most diamond paintings from do tend to hand render. So a lot of my preference may be to do with me being more used to it, but yeah, whatever has caused that preference, I do like being able to tell what I'm working on. One thing that was kind of the same across both kits by this point is there's a lot of trash drills. Every time I pour out drills into my tray, I'll pick out some of the obvious trashy ones and put them in my trash drill pot. But then I feel like each time I'm tipping the drills back in the pot, I've used the best ones I could see in the tray at that point, and there's just like a slightly higher concentration of the remaining trashy ones that I didn't see to pick out going back in the pot. So now by this point, quite far into the paintings, I'm left with a higher concentration of trashy drills. And by that I mean mainly drills with tabs, some with holes and concave backs, which are the other kind of hallmarks of resin drills, which these are. They're decent quality drills. But yeah, there were a lot of drills with tabs, and you know, as you can see, this is a pretty tight grid. The drills fit together very snugly, which I love. That is something that I really value in square diamond paintings, but it does mean that the tolerance for any kind of bits sticking off the edges of drills has to be quite low, because otherwise the drills do not lay snugly. You get popping drills, you get wonky drills. So yeah, that was a thing across both of these this time, which probably did contribute to me not enjoying this pass as much. The less said about what the last row is going to be like in that respect, the better. There were some colours in particular, as is usually the case. There was this, it was DMC 677 according to my notes. I think it was this sort of yellowy beige that was in the candle. That one was the bane of my existence. So this row took me 6 and a bit days. And I am doing quite a bit of diamond painting at the moment. I'm not timing it. I can't give you like the amount of hours it took me, but it took me 6 and a bit days. So almost a full week of diamond painting, where typically I'm spending probably a minimum of 2 hours a day, but often quite a bit more. So yeah, it was pretty slow going, and that's because you are largely single placing with this kit. There's very little multi-placing. You're changing colours all the time. It's just, that's the nature of a confetti piece. By comparison, I think the pixel charted version took me, I think it was maybe about 4 days. It was a bit slower this time. Usually that seemed to go much quicker, but I think the trash drill thing that I mentioned was in effect for both of them did slow me down a little bit. Okay, let me show you the other version, and then we'll talk a little bit about the comparison between the two. So here it is, and if you haven't seen any of these updates before, prepare to be amazed with just how different this looks. Here we go. Okay, here it is. And to remind you, this is your reference. This is the artwork. You have soft colours, soft lines, and this is the hand-rendered version of it. So what do my notes say for this one? I had a little whinge about the grid lines again, just that I really felt the lack of grid lines. Now I've been able to put my finger on what felt wrong about that. Very trashy drills. A previous thing that happened was that earlier on in the painting, I commented that I was having a lot of trouble with the 310, the black drills, and they are everywhere. I don't know if you can tell, but all of the outlining that you see, that is all black drills. And they were so uneven. Some of them were so big. It was like they were taking up more space than the squares. It was pushing things out of alignment. And someone suggested in one of my earlier videos that even though I hadn't run out of them, that I reach out to the shop and ask for replacement 310 drills and explain they were just causing such issues. So I did that. It did take me quite a while to get replacements, but I did get them. So the last update, and presumably the update before this one as well, I was working with a replacement 310 drills, and they were a lot better, but they weren't perfect because 310 drills never are really, are they? I'm yet to find a shop where the 310 square drills are just uniformly good. They can be a lot better in some places than others, but they're always problematic. Anyway, they were a lot better, but not great. And then there was quite a lot of trash in other colours as well. I am not sure I have ever worked on a painting with such a snug grid, meaning how tightly together the drills fit. And I'm in two minds about that, really. I love a snug grid. Snug grid? Snug grid. What are you even saying, Kat? I love a snug grid. It's very satisfying. I like that it's not gappy. The problem I ran into here was those pesky trash drills, because as I said before, if the drills have got tabs and things, it doesn't work with the snug grid. And what would often happen is there'd be like a teeny tiny tab that you wouldn't notice until you'd placed it, and it wouldn't be till you were placing another drill up next to it that you'd realise that they weren't working, and then you had to work out which of the two drills that wouldn't line up next to each other had the tab, pick it off, place another one. Sometimes that would also have a tab. It slowed me down a lot. So although in general I really love a snug grid and would always choose that over gappiness regardless of the quality of drills, in this instance, because of what I was saying before about how I'm now dealing with a higher concentration of trashy drills, it did slow me down quite considerably. Also, this kit has glimmer drills. So this one underneath, I mentioned that I added AB drills to it as an add-on. Oops. Apologies, that was me knocking my phone off the table that has my notes on it. This one, I feel like from memory, it came with glimmer drills as standard. If not, they were an add-on that I accepted, because this one has glimmer drills, which are like a bit like fairy dust. They have a glittery effect. Really, really pretty. The problem I had with them in this section is that they seem to be ever so slightly bigger than the normal drills. And going back to what I was saying about the snug grid, that did give me a few placement issues. I don't know if you can see, but this candle, which is full of these glimmer drills, oh, there's one that's popping off. There is zero space between those drills. They are so close, and that was quite a mission to actually get them all stuck into the grid, and you're working through it thinking, are these actually all going to fit? Same a little bit in the smoke from the cauldron. That's got quite a few purple glimmer drills. Super pretty, little bit of a pain to work with. So I continue to feel, as I have said in previous updates, that this hybrid render version is probably more faithful to the artwork, as you've seen from the picture I've shown. But this one is more fun as a diamond painting. Because, I mean, that's a personal thing, first of all, because a lot of people love confetti, they single place, so they don't care if there's not as much multi-placing. Maybe they value that accuracy more. I do value accuracy to the artwork, but I also value the experience of how it is to diamond painting, because I do like to multi-place and I do like bright colours. For me, this one is more fun to bring together. I do think there are some things about this render that could have been done differently that would have made a big difference to how faithful it was to the artwork. For instance, the choice to use 310 as the outlining colour. So the original artwork has a lot of outlined pieces, but it's not as stark as a black. And I have done a Kat Fedora piece from another shop in the past, and they used a dark blue for outlining. And to me, that made a lot more sense. A dark blue, a dark grey, something like that that's just not quite as stark would have been good, I think. And there's some sections, I trying not to repeat things that I've said in other updates, but I did bring to people's attention last time, for instance, that that plant pot is a different colour to the original artwork in this version. The original artwork, it's much more like the pink you see on that one. So I think that the way this one has been rendered is really fun and vibrant, but it maybe makes it a little bit more kind of cartoon-like than the original artwork. Oh, a thing I forgot to mention about the glimmer drills, by the way, is that despite the fact they were a little bit of a pain to work with, I think they look fabulous. I think that looks wonderful, and it's such a good choice to have glimmer drills with a bit of extra glitter in this bit where, well, you know what it's like with a candle. When it's lit, you can see that glow through the candle. And when this was up on my light board and I could see the light behind it, it just looked so much like a candle. I loved that. So, to delve a bit further into comparing the two. And it's tricky at this point because I can't just show you both of them at once, so I'll have to do some moving around. And obviously I want to focus more on the section I've just done. So what is the best way to show you that? Maybe that. That does an okay job of it. So colours, more accurate in the hybrid for sure. More vibrant in this one. I don't mind that as a diamond painting experience. A couple of times the colours that were chosen in this one were so bright as to be, for me, a little too different to the original. So the big thing was probably this window, the blue through the window. This is a real bright turquoisey blue, and that's just not what it is in the artwork. This is a much more accurate view of that, and I do prefer that section on the hybrid render. I much prefer the curtains in the pixel charted version. I showed you that up close earlier, and even standing where I am, and I'm probably half a metre away from it, so not a proper viewing distance, but not right at it, all I see here is a jumble of pixels. From your distance, probably looks okay. For me, it's like checkerboarding of grey and green drills that looks strange, and without the context of the picture, I would not know this was a curtain. Whereas with this one, you really get the folds of the curtain, the different lighting. I think the curtain looks a lot better here. Let me know if you disagree with any of these things, of course, because we all have different preferences and views, but that's for my taste. The books was another interesting one, and this goes back to what I was saying about the choice to use black outlining. Bearing in mind that this is always going to be more accurate to the original colours because the computers just looked at what the artwork is and replicated it. You can see that these do not have dark patterns on the side. This one in fact has a red sort of crisscross pattern on it. For some reason that has been rendered in black, and this, it doesn't look right to me. These should be red lines, and there's really no reason why it hasn't been done that way that I can tell. So yeah, in part I think the books look better over here, but on the other hand, that top book in particular, it's kind of a mess of drills up close. If I can show you. No, not really. That made it harder to see. So I'm really hamstrung by my working space here. Yeah, so those are my thoughts this time round. Kind of just building on the same sort of things as I said to you before. I don't think anything's likely to change at this point. I think I'm pretty set in stone that this one is more faithful to the artwork. This one is more fun for me personally to diamond paint. If I was coming at this fresh and I didn't already have these and I was choosing which one to buy, I would be buying this one because I'll always pick hand rendered, given the choice, because of my personal taste. And every time I've done one of these updates, there's been a range of comments, and probably the majority of people have tended to prefer this one, but there's always a few people who prefer this one, who prefer the look of it and would enjoy working on it more. And there is space for all these different kinds of render in the diamond painting space. It's just, I mean, the whole point of this comparison series really is to highlight how much of a difference different render styles can make, so that you can make informed decisions when buying paintings, when you have choices. You know, it's not likely that you're very often going to be able to buy the exact same artwork in different styles. This was quite a unique situation, but some shops render in one way, some in another. You know, there are ways in which you can choose which one you want to go for at times. For me, it would always be hand rendered, but this has really opened my eyes to how that's not necessarily the be all and end all. You know, there are different levels of skill in hand rendering. There is more of, so you have your original art that the original artist has made their artistic choices with to create the piece as they have. With pixel charting, you've got another artist, effectively a pixel artist, adding their interpretation on top, and they're going to be trying to be as accurate as possible to the artwork, but they are also thinking about things like ironing out confetti. What colour would work well here? We don't necessarily have all the exact same colour drills as they have in the original artwork, and that's one of the things that can cause differences, because maybe, I don't know, just to pick something as an example, and I don't know that this is accurate, maybe when you're only using a couple of colours in this window, maybe there aren't any DMC drill colours that recreate that exactly. Whereas with the hybrid render, you're speckling in lots of different colours, and it can create something overall. It's like if you mix things, you know, and then from a distance you get that mixed effect, and you can almost create a new colour. I hope that makes some kind of sense. It made sense in my head before I started talking, and then I got a little lost. But yeah, that is where we are with these. One more large section to go. I had hoped to get these done by the middle of April, which is when I'll be doing my year-end review to celebrate really the end of my 5th year of diamond painting, but I don't think I'm going to want to come back to these that soon. I think I'm going to want a bit more of a break, but some point within this year, hopefully not too far away, I will get these finished, and I'm sure that, you know, the last section will go smooth enough because I'll have that sense of, oh, coming to the end of a diamond painting, I'm motivated now. But yeah, it's been a fun project in general. This wasn't my favourite stage. I suppose is my main takeaway from this one, because nothing much has changed in terms of my overall reflections of the paintings. There's always going to be some things I love a lot more in this one and some things I love a lot more in that one. The candles were definitely a highlight of this row for me, and as I said, they were the focal piece of this row. I very much enjoyed the render with the glimmer drills. You don't have that in this one, because one of the things that I've mentioned in previous updates, but not in this one so far, is that a critique I would have about the use of AB drills here is that they are just charted randomly as that colour. So you pay your charge for the AB drills, which probably covers the cost of adding in those drills, because special drills do cost diamond painting companies more. So you're covering that cost to the shop, but from a customer's point of view, when you're adding AB drills, you're not doing it for the sake of it, you're expecting it's going to add accents. And these have not been charted intentionally, as far as I can tell. There's places where they seem like they have been. There's a lot of other places where it seems like the computer called for DMC XYZ, and in this chart, DMC XYZ is provided by ABs, so it's going to be used there. So you get them speckled quite randomly, and they are not used in the same way to highlight certain aspects. So you don't get things like the intentional glowiness in the candle. There are a few ABs in there, but they're literally just a few ABs speckled in there. So yeah, that is something that I have learnt from this, to check where special drills are if possible. And Jada Gem Shop does often include renders that show where the special drills are. And yeah, it's with hindsight, if I knew when ordering what I know now, I wouldn't have bothered to add the ABs in, because they didn't actually add any value for me personally as a diamond painter. So, as ever, let me know your comments down below. Let me know what you think, which one you prefer, you know, what you would change, you know. I've said before, I think the perfect diamond painting render of this artwork lies somewhere between the two of these kits, which is slightly frustrating, I guess, but also just the nature of the game. But yeah, I would love to hear from you and hear what you think about the two of them. And do subscribe if you want to check in and see the final edition of this comparison series whenever I get round to that in the next few months. And do go and check back on the playlist as well to see the earlier updates. It's been interesting because my views have changed a little bit as they've gone through. The very first row, I was a little bit horrified by this one, But then as more of the picture's been filled in and given the eye more context, this one has improved in my mind, and I've been able to see that it is very faithful to the original in many ways. And yeah, maybe my preference for this one isn't quite as stark as it was at the start, although it is still there. But let me know what you think. So thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed taking a look at these with me. It has been a fun project. I will in some ways miss it when it's done. Please consider dropping a like on the video if you've enjoyed this, and as I said, if you're not yet subscribed, I'd love to have you stick around, so please consider doing that too. And I will hopefully see you again soon. Bye bye.